Questions and comments? The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's absolutely outrageous that this debate is being shut down. Well, you know, this government has been rushing ahead from the beginning to this arbitrary date, which is 223 days away. They always talk about how they are consulting, but unfortunately they are never listening. We saw that Quebec has recognized that homegrown doesn't keep cannabis out of the hands of children. New Brunswick thinks the same, and so they've introduced measures to lock it up. We know that everybody we listened to at committee, and I was part of those listening ears, told us that we had to have public awareness and education in place before the legalization. This government's had 2 years and they've done nothing. They haven't even started to roll out the public education and awareness program. I have had speakers that are lined up wanting to speak to this bill, and the fact that the government would shut down Parliament's ability to take a look at this legislation and point out the things that are wrong. I mean, it's not just the Indigenous people that haven't been consulted. Municipalities are saying they haven't been consulted. The Real Estate Association still has concerns, and there is no plan to address the 3 treaties that we are going to break as a result of this. And also, Madam Speaker, point of order, we have props in the House. While I love the United Church and I'm all about the poor, I think we can't have props in the House today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Unfortunately, I didn't see any props, and I would just ask if there are some props that they're not to be used. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for the questions. I want to confirm that we are listening. We have been listening for 2 years, and we will continue to listen. We will continue to engage with the provinces and territories, 6 of whom have introduced their own measures with respect to responding to Bill C-45, and we will continue to support them in that regard, as well as the other jurisdictions that will likely be moving forward in some manner. In terms of public education and communications, in fact, we have done substantive measures in this regard, including investments. Very recently, we announced $36.4 million around public education and awareness, and that campaign has begun. For example, we have engaged in many initiatives via social media. We have issued 110,000 leaflets for a drug-free Canada. There is ongoing efforts by my colleagues, the Minister of Health and Public Safety, to ensure that we continue to communicate the risks with respect to cannabis, particularly with respect to young people. We will continue to have this campaign. We will continue to work in collaboration on this campaign and ensure that the provinces and territories and municipalities and law enforcement are prepared for the legalization, strict regulation, and restricting access to cannabis.
Comments? The Honourable Député de Rosemont.
Honourable Member for Rosemont-La Petite Patrie. Madam Speaker, what disdain. What disdain of Indigenous people, civil society, different communities in Canada. What disdain for the provinces. A government that says that it's listening, but it's deaf as a post. It's not able to listen. Perhaps that's why I'm raising my voice, so that they can hear. The government of Quebec is asking for more time, but they dare to impose time allocation to accelerate the adoption of C-45. It makes no sense. We wanted to have a collaboration with the provinces, a new relationship between the federal government and the provinces, but that's over. That's it, that's all. Nobody cares about awareness or training law enforcement. Who cares about public health or the cost for provinces? Things have to go faster. Why? Why must they go faster? My Conservative colleague was right. July 1st, 2018 is a totally arbitrary date. It makes no sense. The only logical reason they have to go so quickly is that for cannabis producers that have received authorizations and permits, there's a considerable number of former Liberal organizers and ministers. Is it not for them that we are voting on time allocation today?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I have to say from the outset that I completely reject that characterization. I appreciate the passion and the emotion in which the member opposite is expressing his views, so I will reiterate what I have stated with respect or in response to comments that he's made around ensuring and assuring the member that we are listening. We have been listening for 2 years. We engaged a task force that put together a report and recommendations and benefited from discussions right across the country. We have been and will continue to listen to Indigenous communities, and we are taking great care around awareness, around ensuring law enforcement officials have the tools that they need in order to conduct their jobs, as well as ensuring that we are taking into account the costs, having these discussions and consulting with the provinces and territories and the Canadian public at large to determine the cost, to determine taxation. We will continue to work with the provinces and territories and municipalities. We've had conversations with the province of Quebec, and we will continue to do that. Once again, Madam Speaker, we are listening. This is an important piece of legislation. It's seeking to address an issue of the status quo that simply isn't working, and it's so incredibly easy for young people to get cannabis, more easy to get cannabis than it is to get a cigarette. Putting a legalized, comprehensive framework in place is what our government is committed to doing.
And comments, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government.